Hey, all, today we're going to continue talking about sampling, but we're going to switch and talk about ways that you can sample badly and how things can go wrong. So when we talk about sampling badly, we're talking about ideas or ways to sample that will give you biased samples. It won't give you a really good representative sample. And so the first thing that can cause some bias in a sample is when you have something that requires voluntary response. And so these things can be seen a lot if you are on Twitter, doing a Twitter poll, some sort of website where they're doing a poll, when you look at product reviews. And the thing here is that people are volunteering to participate in these polls or to write reviews, and typically those people are doing so because they feel strongly one way or the other about the poll or the product that's being reviewed, and we're not really getting a representative sample of everybody who might be involved. So if I do a Twitter poll, let's say about the English Premier League, some people who feel strongly one way or the other about it will answer, but there's probably a lot more people who we want opinions of who might not be on Twitter, who might not like to answer Twitter polls, things like that. And this makes our sample invalid and it introduces a bias. Another thing that introduces bias, it has the word sample in it because you can take samples this way, doing a convenience sample, but it is not an appropriate sampling method. That's something like a mall survey. So if you've ever walked through the mall and somebody asks you for 5 minutes of your time, they're holding a clipboard. That's a convenience sample. They're just conveniently sampling people who walk by them, which is probably not going to give you a representative sample of everybody you're interested in. That's the same thing would be true, say, if we surveyed everybody walking into the cafeteria and just stopped people as they walked by without any sort of randomness involved or any sort of methodology involved. For the next few, I have this little thing in quotes here because they're very easy to mix up. And so hopefully this will help you. A bad sampling frame. A sampling frame is the group you are trying to select your sample from. And if we have a bad sampling frame, that means there are people who are in our population who we have not considered to be part of the group that we're going to sample from. So for instance, let's say we are trying to find something out about Prince William County residents. When we can get a bad sampling frame if we don't consider certain people who live in our county who we might not reach, like people who are incarcerated, people who are in our county who may be experiencing homelessness. Um, they might represent a group that we would definitely want to reach out to that we haven't considered. College students who are off at university during parts of the year but are still Prince William County residents. So if we neglect to include them in our sampling frame, we are going to get some results that are not necessarily representative, and that is due to a bad sampling frame because we have not considered them. Under coverage, and this is where they sort of get a little similar. Bad sampling frame, we have not considered you. Under coverage would be that we have considered you, but we have not been able to reach you. So people used to do phone surveys when we had home phones. Sometimes they do still call. So during the election times, we've been receiving a lot of phone calls, and uh, they probably are experiencing some undercoverage because people like me don't answer their phone. Um, perhaps they're calling during a time when I'm just arriving at home and getting my kids unpacked from the day, or we're working on making or eating dinner. So when they come by and knock on my door and we're eating dinner, I don't answer my door. And so you're getting some under coverage, and that's not good, particularly because people who might not be answering their door, or people who might not be answering phone calls from unknown numbers. They might have a particular character trait about them that we want to make sure is included in our sampling. And so it can introduce this undercoverage bias. Non-response bias, again, seems similar. Bad sampling frames when we did not consider you. Undercoverage is when we did consider you, but we couldn't get a hold of you. So you were part of our sample, but we couldn't get a hold of you. And non-response bias is when you get people who just do not want to participate. I've answered by phone, but I don't want to participate. So again, getting an email survey sent to me and me deleting the email, or getting a text message survey sent to me and me deleting the text message. They have reached me, they have considered me, but I have decided not to participate, and therefore we get some non-response. And just so you know, it's not always possible to mitigate from getting these biases. Not to be confused with non-response, we have a response bias. And this has to do with part of our survey, or the way we conduct our survey, or the way we ask our questions. And this would happen if we asked a question in a way, or we conducted our survey in a way that we would influence somebody's response, making them answer in a way that they normally wouldn't, because some sort of pressure involved in the question, or perhaps in the environment where you were asking them the question. So my example here is where I lead this question about teenagers smoking cigarettes with smoking causes cancer. I am asking a leading question. I am stating something negative about smoking before I ask somebody if they think smoking should be allowed among teenagers. And so that would potentially influence the response of the person being surveyed and create some bias. So using those ways where we can create bias or get a bad sample, I want you to read these two scenarios and decide which of those might apply here, which of those might be creating some bias in our sampling method. And then I want you to press play and I will talk about the answers. So pause here, answer these two questions, and then press play for the answers. So hopefully you press pause, you tried these on your own. The first one, where we're stopping students on their way out of the cafeteria to ask them about the food, that is a convenience sample. The people who stop and answer might not be representative of everybody in the cafeteria and how they feel about the food. We would want to do something that used random methods. The second one represents voluntary response. We have a poll on a website, a statistics website specifically, and we're getting this large number of respondents who say they enjoy doing statistics homework. They have volunteered to answer this question. They have gone to this website on their own, which means they probably already have an interest in statistics. Not everybody taking a statistics class, you don't have to speak up if you don't want to, but not everybody taking a statistics class actually enjoys doing it. So we probably are not getting a representative sample just by asking for this voluntary response. So I do have some questions for you to answer here. Please do, if you have any questions about anything I've talked about, or while you're trying to answer these questions, I'll be glad to help you. I'd rather help you work through the problems than have you feel like you don't understand. So 5 questions, answer them to the best of your ability, take time, and good luck.